365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul Kenley, the Craig Smoke, and Grayson Grundhoefer, Sic'Em365.com, recruiting analyst. And Grayson, Baylor now into the class of 2025 making offers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've kind of been there for a little bit, though. I mean, I know they offered Grayson Harris today, but they've kind of been steadily sending out, a couple here and there. It's not a long list, obviously. Baylor likes to do the whole process where they get to meet guys and then, figure out if they're a right fit. But I believe they have already maybe 10 offers already in the 2025 class. So they've already gotten started there. But yeah, today it was Grayson Harris, the wide receiver out of Ennis, who just had a monster freshman season, which is really cool to see a freshman have a huge impact on a team that went 10-0 this year. So I felt like that was a really big offer, and they put out a few offers today. So clearly they're continuing to be active, especially in the 2024 and 2025 classes. And of course, camp season starts next weekend. So there's going to be a bunch of camps in June and then one in July where they're going to put out a bunch more offers to kids from 2023, 2024, and 2025 classes. So it's going to be really exciting to see all the offers that go out.
So you just kind of mentioned it there, the 2023 class. I mean, that's what's in front of them, and it's been kind of sitting there where it's been for a little while now. I mean, every once in a while we'll get a little blip of a commit or something along those lines, but I was going to ask you, what about this upcoming class? So you think that's where you'll see some more offers is here pretty soon?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, they have a lot of offers out right now in the 2023 class, and it's not even the amount of offers, really. It's just the amount of interest in those offers. So, I mean, there are 3 official visit dates that are coming up in June. I mean, they have a lot of guys that aren't committed anywhere, but Baylor for a long time, it feels like, has either been in the lead in a lot of these recruitments or kind of, right there where they could make up some ground and potentially, get guys to commit as well. So that's the interesting part, right, is how these official visits go, I think, will probably dictate a lot of the offers that go out. And I just think they're in a really good position. They're going to fill this class, I think, pretty easily. The problem is they got a lot of needs at a few positions, especially on the defensive line and at cornerback, that really need to be addressed. But the good news is they have a lot of those type of guys visiting over the next 3 weekends, starting next weekend.
Who would you say, and I know you can get a full rundown over on the website, but who would you say are the most notable, don't even have to do a handful, but, 2, 3, 4, 5 names, who are the most notable as far as the official visit watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one guy that I've probably mentioned quite a bit on, here and just on the website as well, but Cy Woods, defensive lineman Terrence Green. He's just a big-time prospect, guys. Reminds me a lot of Gabe Hall, a ton of upside, a guy that some schools are recruiting as an offensive lineman, but I think he fits the Baylor scheme perfectly in the 3-4 defense that they run. So he's definitely one that I'm intrigued by, and also Round Rock defensive lineman Ansel Nadore. Both of those guys, they fit the mold that Baylor really needs on the defensive line, and they don't have a single defensive lineman committed yet. So they really have to make up some ground. I mean, I continue to focus on the defensive line just because I think it's such a position of need in this class. But, right in Baylor's backyard, Colleen Ellison, defensive lineman Brendan Bett, he's going to come on an official visit as well in June. So a lot of big-time defensive linemen. And then as far as cornerbacks go, which is the other position that I really feel like they need at least 2, maybe 3 in this class. And those guys, pretty much that have started standing out are Denton Ryan cornerback, Chance Rucker, Frisco Lone Star cornerback Jalen Braxton, and then Maid Creek cornerback Tayshawn Wilson. Those 3 guys it seems like those 3 have been standing out for a long time. They have a few other cornerbacks that are going to visit as well. But those 3 just feel like they're probably the 3 that are the biggest priorities right now, especially Braxton and Rucker. Those are 2 guys that I think would make up one of Baylor's best cornerback classes in a long time if the Bears could close with them.
Grayson, are Baylor fans just going to have to white-knuckle Austin Novosad until the end here?
I mean, I wrote a huge article about this, and it's a big dilemma, right? Because a lot of Baylor fans have been, I feel like, scarred in the past because they've had these hopes of landing a big-time quarterback recruit. Now, I know they landed Jarrett Sic'Em back in 2015, and I understand that was a huge get. Like, he was a top 40 player, but since then, they really haven't landed guys that are kind of in that same category or tier at the quarterback position. And so for me, I think it's one of those things where they've been so scarred in the past that it makes it really difficult to get excited about this. But at the end of the day, Novosad is a guy that Baylor's had a great relationship with for a really long time, and they continue to build that relationship. And because of that, they've really been able to solidify a relationship with him, solidify his commitment, and really honestly just kind of position themselves extremely well. And, it's going to be a waiting game, right? Because he's taking his official visit June 17th, and then we're going to see if he's going to end up taking an official visit anywhere else. But right now, I think Baylor's in a great spot. He has no other official visits scheduled anywhere. He was always going to take visits, though, which he has done to Ohio State, and he's actually at Stanford now. So he's going out, taking these visits, and really trying to position himself to, gain a lot of traction. And also, I think this helps Baylor's recruiting class as well. And when you're able to compete and potentially sign a guy who could be a top 10 prospect in the country.
Do you think their depth chart is something that he's looking at in comparison to, let's say, in Ohio State? Because we were just talking to Ohio State beat writer, and, whereas Baylor fans are all in on Novosad, Ohio State fans are like, okay, sure. Like, we know we'll have a good quarterback regardless because we're loaded always at quarterback. But do you think that that's something he's eyeing, or is he the type of guy that, it doesn't matter? There could be 17 quarterbacks on Ohio State's depth charts, and he feels like he can go compete?
I think he definitely feels that way. I think that, you kind of look at Ohio State's depth chart and you see a few more obstacles and roadblocks than Baylor's. I think, you see at Baylor, you see Blake Shapen, a guy who is going to be very good. But beyond that, they didn't take a quarterback in the 2022 class. They have 2 walk-ons on the roster right now. And then, of course, Kyron Drones, who really hasn't played at all. So I think that Novosad on the Baylor side probably feels really good about the chances that he's the guy after Blake Shapen. I think anyone would feel that way. Now, at Ohio State, it's very different, right? Because at Ohio State, they got a 5-star who's backing up C.J. Stroud. They got a very high 4-star who's the 3rd-string guy. And then in the 2024 class, guys, they have a very, very special player committed in Dylan Raiola, who I just think he's phenomenal. He's probably the best quarterback in the 2024 class. He might be the number 1 overall player in that class when it's all said and done. And so it's kind of one of those things where you look at it and go, do you really want to go somewhere where if you just get unlucky, like, for instance, you could be a top 10 player, you could top 10 player in the NFL draft and still not start there because someone could be the number 1 player in the NFL draft. That's kind of what happened to Joe Burrow, similar type situation there. And so I just think that's a huge obstacle. And that's one obstacle that I know Austin pays attention to. He's talked about a lot. Depth chart matters to him. And for Baylor's end, that's exactly why they didn't take a 2022 quarterback, because he is their 2022 and 2023 quarterback. And they've, made that known to him from the very beginning.
Well, let's stick with quarterbacks because there was an interesting move earlier this week that added to Baylor's depth chart. Luke Anthony coming over from Louisiana Tech. Did not play last year. He's coming off of the injury, right? So he's had that injury history, but everything's good to go there. Very experienced, has played in a lot of games, actually played against Baylor, at one point. What are your thoughts? Because I know some people see that and go, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Clearly the quarterback room's not good enough. And then there's other people that see it and say, oh, that's very much some needed depth that they otherwise did not have. How do you kind of view the addition of Luke Anthony?
I mean, guys, if you want to turn back the clock on that game, they put up 27 points on Baylor. Mm-hmm. He threw for 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. He wasn't dazzling, but he led them to score probably more points than many people thought. And then throughout his career, the last 2 years at Abilene Christian, threw for 5,544 yards and 40 touchdowns. And then, of course, he was the Conference USA Newcomer of the Year in 2020. At Louisiana Tech, where he threw for nearly 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, only had 5 interceptions. Guys, this is a starting quarterback. This is a guy who started at the Group of 5 level. I would consider him a true starter. He probably could have gone other places and been a starter in Group of Five. But I think the injury probably set him back. And then also the opportunity to play at a Power 5 program was very intriguing to him. And so I think those things combined probably led him kind of to this decision. And I know he's excited about it. He's really excited about the opportunity to come to a Power 5 school. I know his cousin played baseball at Baylor as well. So there's a little bit of a connection there. And I mean, you got to have connections when you decide to walk on somewhere. But just to be clear, I mean, this is a great pickup. Not many people get a, 4-year starter as your potentially third string guy on your depth chart. So this is big, much needed addition, much needed depth. And I think Luke Anthony coming in is one of those really big positives for development as well, because I think he's going to really help Blake Shapen and Kyron Drones and teach them how to be true college quarterbacks, because neither one has gone through a whole season, a whole grind of a year being the starting quarterback. So I think for Luke Anthony, that's going to be a big part of his job as well. As well as providing much needed depth in case injuries happen.
Well, yeah, and I think that the best part about this move is it doesn't stunt anyone's growth at all. I mean, it doesn't change Kyron Drones. It's not like they brought in a guy who could potentially jump in front of him for 3 years and Baylor would lose him to a transfer. It leaves him in exactly the same spot.
Well, and it sticks to what they've told Austin Novosad the whole time as well, right? I mean, because they added this guy, but he's going to be gone next year. So it sticks to them. I mean, everything they've told Austin Novosad, and that's big as well. But yeah, you're right. This doesn't really impact anyone at all, in my opinion. I think this is the most perfect quarterback pickup I think they could have had, unless, of course, you get somebody who's better than Blake Shapen, which would have been, that's very hard to find, in my opinion.
So we saw move-in day a couple of days ago, the various sports programs putting out, nice little videos of people moving in and all of that. I know there were some guys who early enrolled, but amongst the newcomers who, obviously are starting from scratch here in these summer workouts and whatnot, who are you most excited to see that you feel like could potentially, find themselves making a little noise earlier rather than later?
Yeah, I think the guys that really stand out. Well, there's quite a few. I really like this 2022 class. I think that you kind of look up and down and you go, okay, so where is their potential playing time available? And really there isn't that much for Baylor, that is. But I think a guy like Jordan Neighbors, if he comes in and is really just surreal on the football field, I mean, there's a chance that he could come in and make an impact right away. That would not shock me at all. He's been so productive in his time at Rockwall Heath, and I just think he's a fantastic player. And he's going into a position that right now is very ambiguous. We don't really know who the top guys are. I mean, we can make guesses and make judgments, but I would say that it's as open a position as you could possibly find. So if he comes in there and just, takes practices by storm, I mean, there's a chance that he has a major role on this team. Outside of him, I just think it's going to be really hard to find someone who could potentially start. I love the upside of Kyan Roberts-Day at tight end / running back / defensive line / the guy can play anywhere. He's such a good athlete. But he could step in and be an offensive weapon day one if he really adjusts to the speed of the game. And that would be fascinating as well. I know Baylor has depth there with Dabney and Sims, but after them, he could be a nice fit. And then at running back, if that happens, I find that to be highly unlikely. But if it does, there is room there for a power running back, especially on the goal line. So I guess that's a possibility as well. So those two guys are the two I'm most curious about. I know a lot of people are high on Richard Reese as well. He's a little bit older of a prospect, which probably makes him a little more college ready. And if they're struggling at the running back position, he could fit in there as well. But yeah, outside of that, it's going to be really tough for these guys to find a whole lot of playing time, which is a great thing because that means Baylor will get to redshirt a lot of these guys.
Finally, Grayson, there's a little bit of a coaching search going on in baseball. I know that Levi, who's here with us in studio, had a great piece on, just everything going on with that. You hearing any rumors? You got any feelings otherwise? Any person that you particularly have your eyes on in regards to Baylor baseball's vacancy?
Honestly, I'm not really diving into the baseball search as much as I probably should. I obviously have followed it. Levi's done a great job covering it and kind of going through some of the potential candidates. It's just, we talked about this on the Bearcast this week. It's like Mac Rhodes is probably going to choose someone that's completely out of left field. And if that happens, then it's kind of like, well, we all made these guesses and none of them turned out to be correct. And then at the end of the day, Mac Rhodes is probably going to find another great coach, which I have full confidence in him. Now, if I were to pick one that I think he's a great coach. I think he's a guy who would really come in and potentially help turn around the program because he did it at another school. I really like Rob Vaughn, the Maryland head coach. Obviously, Baylor played Maryland this year. They've been phenomenal this season. Were really good a year ago. And, when he took over the program, they won 24 games. And since that point, he's just had them rocking and rolling and really changed the landscape at Maryland. And to be honest, a lot of those up north schools, especially in the Big Ten, really aren't historically good at baseball. So getting him to kind of go in and really build the confidence of the program, that's really intriguing to me. And I think that Baylor could use that. And he's also young. He's only 34. And I think that's probably the route that I would go as well, just to create more excitement for the program.
Grayson Grundhoefer, Sic'Em365.com, with us every Friday, unless he's on vacation like he was last week. So we didn't have him. But Grayson, always great to hear from you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Next up, Baylor Director of Athletics.